Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades, I hope you're doing well wherever you are. This is Kenyan Revolutionary coming to you from some part of the world that you might not believe. Anyway, karibu sana, karibu sana. I hope you're doing well. Today, we are going to talk about what are Raila Odinga's chances of winning the African Union Chairperson seat? What are his real chances? Let's look at real possibilities or of his chances, whether he can actually win this thing, okay? Because I see a lot of people excited. There's a call to support Raila Odinga since he's Kenyan. Oh, let's support our guy. And it is said that 100 members of parliament are going to escort him, fly alongside him to Addis Ababa for all this event, okay? I wonder whose taxpayers' money are they using? Are they using their money or, because I don't know, but anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. But please, 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 before I get started, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades, do me a favor, hit the like button as we get started. Hit that like button now, immediately. Not just right now, but right about now. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed to this channel. We talk about Kenyan politics, okay? And the world politics as it relates to Kenya, okay? So please hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And also put the notification on. The notification bell is right there. Hit it. So every time I come in, you can always get a notification that I'm live and you can always join in on the conversation or you can participate in the chat. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, let's get to the matter. Yasi, hello, Raila is true West Kenyan taxpayers. Nice thing, Yasi. Now let's get to it. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. Now, what drove me to talk about this is because I saw the so-called public intellectuals on TV earlier today, talking about Raila's chances and his qualifications and the possibility of him becoming the next AU chairperson. There were some reasonable opinions and also some that I don't know. It seems like the so-called public intellectuals of Kenya, at least the ones that they bring in to these shows, morning talk shows, they don't really understand or fully understand the role of the AU chairperson, the African Union chairperson. These guys are speaking as if the AU chairperson is going to be the president of Africa, which is really funny. Now, if you go watch, I'm sorry, I'm using my different gadget. I will have played a clip where it was Daybreak clip from Citizen Digital, Citizen TV with Ayub, I believe, as being the presenter, where he had Kaluma there, he had Kajwang, some other guy, and some other guy, a journalist. I don't remember their names, but only one person who was having a back and forth with Kaluma seemed to have a grasp, a proper understanding of what Raila is getting, what that position entails, okay? They started this discussion, and I'm going to kind of bring it in here because they spent a lot of time mentioning the influence of the West, because the discussion started with, with Raila vying for this position. There's some factors that have to be considered. The Francophone part of Africa, or the Francophone speaking, the Anglophones, and the lesser phones, and every phone, iPhone, my phone, your phone, all of that. What disappointed me about these so-called public intellectuals was they were so concerned about how the United States will feel about the incoming chairperson, AU chairperson, or the possible, the candidates that we have. Hello, nice seeing you, Pritpa Kaur, nice seeing you. Thank you so much. Now, they stressed a lot about United States' influence on Africa, China's influence on Africa, UK's influence in Africa. They never really discussed what might lead these heads of states to vote for Raila or to vote for Yusuf Mahmoud, who seems to be another top contender, the guy from Djibouti, okay, who's Raila's main competitor in this coming election, okay? Now, as you know, guys, it is the heads of states that are going to vote for the next AU chairperson. With that said, the deputy AU chairperson shall come from North Africa, which will probably be a Muslim and an Arabic-speaking, okay, person. If you see the names, it's from, you can see it's Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, all the Arab Muslim nations are candidates for the deputy, and it has to be a woman, okay? So, like I said in my previous video yesterday, I say that could play as an advantage to Mr. Yusuf Mahmoud, since he's trilingual. He can speak French, he can speak Arabic, he can speak English. So let's get started. This is what I want to impress upon you, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies and comrades. I want you to get the basic, very basic understanding of what this role or responsibilities of African Union chairperson. I won't go to all the whole coordinating of whatever the finances and economic, what do you call it, blocks within the union. You know, it's a lot of stuff, but let me just summarize it with one word. This is a top diplomatic position. It requires you to become, to be a top diplomat. You're basically a diplomat for the African continent, at least for the member states that are within this African Union. From what I understand, there are 6 countries that are not going to participate in this voting, which include Gabon, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Sudan, and I forgot the last one, okay? They say that the only one states that are not military led, which are not, you know, which don't have head of states who came to power through coup d'etat, okay? So that's their reasoning. But regardless, let's look at Raila's chances, okay? Let's look at Raila's chances. First of all, let's look at Raila's experience as a top diplomat. His strongest suit, as I've said before, is that he worked as the head of infrastructural development under Faki as a special envoy when they sent him to Ivory Coast, where to remove Bagbo, not Bagbo. Is it Bagbo? Bagbo, not Bagbo. Bagbo. Remember that? This was instructions from the EU and the West, the Americans, who actually instructed the AU, and Faki didn't want to do his dirty work, so he let Raila Odinga fly to inform Bagbo, who was elected by the people and removed just because they wanted, was it Quatara or whatever the name is, to come in and replace him. So this is, number one, is not a good look on Raila, because that was a move that was inspired by the West. Now, another thing, the second point that I want to make is that Kenya is viewed as a country led by a Western stooge. William Samoei Ruto is seen in the African continent as an African stooge. The first person William Ruto called when the M23 took over Goma was who? Macron, Emmanuel Macron. Of all the people, Ruto found it in its heart to call the colonial master to inform him that his former colony is under attack. Well, to be fair, it is the Belgians who actually, colonized Congo. Had a lot of whatever, but the French people also they're dabbling in Congo. U.S., China, everybody up is in Congo. Okay, they have their hands in the cookie jar. But the African continent, lots of people, Africans, were appalled. Some of them apoplectic, because when they heard that Ruto had to call on the West, Macron of all the people. Now, some of you might not understand why that was an outrageous act. Okay? If you haven't been paying attention, the general mood in Africa, okay, the zeitgeist, the political temperature of the day across the African continent is that Africa is trying to liberate itself economically from the West. Ibrahim Traore is viewed as an African hero because he kicked out the French, the Americans, and the British from Burkina Faso. Of course, with the help of the Russians. But nevertheless, he managed to kick out the Westerners. Okay? Because he wants Africa for Africans. But on the other end of the spectrum, we have William Samoei Ruto, who has opened the floodgates for every Western transnational corporations to come and usurp Kenya's sovereignty and do anything they will in Kenya. From the GMOs to all this agenda, I won't even mention some of them because I don't want this video to be flagged. But you know the deal. I mean, I just saw Meg Whitman today. She's back in Kenya. Try to pretend that she's part of the board members of the Rhino Conservatory nonsense. When was the last time did a former CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Hewlett-Packard and eBay cared about the conservation of rhinos in Kenya? Why would they have that interest? The lady who was the former ambassador, U.S. ambassador to Kenya. What kind of interest does she have in Kenya? But I digress. Let's look at the map. Now that I've informed you and painted a clear picture that Kenya does not stand as a state that's been viewed to be conforming with the general ethos, zeitgeist, political mood of a revolutionary movement against economic suppression, enslavement by the West. Ruto is a total Western puppet. Kagame might be sitting somewhere in Kigali, wondering if Raila is really fit for this position. Between Kagame, and Shikedi, whatever his name, Mr. Felix, the president of Congo, one of them shall vote for the Eritrean president. And if I was to be asked, I would say it will be the Congolese president. We saw when the Congolese burnt, attacked, committed arsenal, arsonist, burned down, attacked the embassy, the Kenyan embassy in Congo, the US embassy in Congo, the Rwandan embassy in Congo, in Kinshasa. Why? Because they felt like Kenya, with Rwanda and with the help of the West, are meddling in their business, in their affairs. Mr. Felix, the president of Congo, the last time Ruto called for a Zoom meeting for the Great Lakes talks, everybody showed up except the president of Congo. Kagame might, and I think will, vote for Ruto, for Raila Odinga. Now, let's go to, remember, each candidate requires 33 countries in order to win that position. Now, I told you that among the Francophone nations, majority of them being West Africa, this being a diplomatic position, communication is key. Here you have the Eritrean candidate who has had 28 years of diplomatic experience in diplomacy as the foreign minister of Eritrea. He knows his way around the neighborhood. I heard some people say, oh, you know what, he might be smart, he might have all the diplomatic credentials, but he lacks charisma. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a political contest in Opoda or in Langata, where charisma is all that people are looking for. It was evident in that debate, night and day. One man looked old and never gave substance as to what he could actually revive within the AU. He gave us bullet point things of what he wants to do. But who can't do that? Any Tom, Dick, and Jerry can stand with a list of things telling you I'm an Afro-optimist. Here is my vision 2063. Anybody can do that. I can do that. But you saw how the Eritrean guy explained point by point, pinpointing what's actually wrong with the AU. Why the AU is not effective and the areas that needs to be addressed, how leaders should be approached, encouraged, involved. That was the stark difference between Mr. Mahmoud Yusuf and Raila Odinga and the other guy. Now, again, keep in mind, this position is largely a diplomatic position. Get it, wrap that around your cranium. This is not a position to become the president of Africa. No, la hasha. If you're looking at diplomatic experience internationally, Raila has about 4 years. And those are 4 years that when he was that appointed by Faki as to be the person for the whatever, developmental infrastructural development of AU. Okay? Even when he was the Prime Minister of Kenya, there was not so many diplomatic involvement in his position. It was almost a ceremonial job. The real power lied with Kibaki. You understand what I'm saying? So the skill set that you need for this position is how you can bring these leaders who have different ideological approach, inklings, how you can bring them to the table, discuss issues, just like the Congo issue. I would have loved if somebody asked them how they would deal with the issue in Congo. Are you able to put Mr. Felix and Kagame in one room, talk to them about what needs to be done? But anyway, that's not what I wanted to go with this. I'm beside myself. Let me get back to the main issue that I want to talk about. Because we are talking about what are the chances, Raila Odinga's real chances of winning this African Union Chairperson seat. Personally, I've mentioned Mr. Mahmoud stands a better chance of winning this thing. As I mentioned, number one, all the North African countries, the Muslim nations, remember, the deputy chairperson is going to come from North Africa. And I told you, I read all the names. They're probably Muslims and they're probably Arabs, the contestants. And they're also campaigning for their position. What do you think? Who do you think they would prefer to work with? So even when they are also doing their diplomatic rounds, campaigns within the AU, they must, I'm sure, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, 5, or all of them must be whispering to the heads of state saying, I would love to work with Mr. Yusuf Mohammed. He speaks the language. He has more diplomatic experience, 28 years. Okay. He's probably a Muslim. That's an advantage. That plays a huge role. Diplomacy, it's all about give and take. If we sit down to discuss something, I'm sitting down with you to discuss an issue, hoping that I will also get something from that, what? Discussion. Is Raila really somebody who can negotiate a peace treaty between two nations? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. Like I say, let's look at the Francophone nations. We've already talked about the North African nation, the Arabic speaking. They'll probably throw their weight under the Yusuf Mohammed. The Francophones. If I look at the whole of West Africa, the only person I can honestly see that will vote for Raila Odinga is Tinubu, whatever his case is. That is because Raila Odinga is great friends with Obasanjo, who will put in a good word for him, and Tinubu is just another Western puppet. So real recognize real. Well, they're not real, but I'm just saying. So Tinubu will probably, and Nigeria is not a Francophone nation, but I'm just saying, they're in West Africa. They're in that Western bloc. And remember, I told you, I started by mentioning to you the general mood in Africa. The general mood is to distance themselves from the West, cut ties, politically and economically especially, from the West. So Ruto being viewed as a Western puppet, him fronting Raila to represent Kenya, that's already a disadvantage. I know the heads of states are the ones who are going to vote, but the heads of states will vote in accordance to the interest of their own state that they're heading. You understand what I'm saying? So if I was to look at Raila Odinga and Yusuf Mahmoud, and I'm the president of Cameroon, who should I consider between the two? Who should I consider? Raila will come to me and will be speaking English. He'll have an interpreter telling me all this wonderful stuff about how Cameroon can thrive under the AU banner. Hello, Mesh Wanjiku, I see you. Nice seeing you, my friend. Yusuf Mahmoud will come and speak French with me, a language that I understand, and there'll be that human, man-to-man, interpersonal connection, since we have this commonality through speaking the same language. Yes, it's the colonial language, but it makes a host of difference. You understand? So Yusuf Mahmoud will sit there and explain in plain French to the head of the Cameroonian president and tell him, hey, this, and the third. Same thing. When you go to the Senegalese president, the young man who just became the president, the guy is also inspired by Ibrahim Traore. He's trying to move away from the French. He looks at Raila Odinga. This is an old relic who represent the old guard who were controlled by the colonialists. So while I might shake his hand, exchange pleasantries, here comes Yusuf Mahmoud, will speak French to me and explain, having that interpersonal connection, commonality that they have due to a shared language, French, that will convince them, tell them, hey, we are all about Africa for Africans. You see what I'm saying? So while South Africa, Ramaphosa, that's a personal friend of Raila Odinga, might most likely vote for Raila Odinga. All in all, what I'm saying is this. After I watched all these people talking about Francophone, Anglophone nations. Realistically, yes, there's external factors such as, the US and Britain and all this stuff. But when it comes to voting for this, because what I realized, most people were the pro-Raila arguments that I was listening to. They were trying to convince us that Kenya is a big strategic country for the US and the UK and the superpowers. So that will weigh in on a lot of countries. And I keep on thinking, listen, it's not these Western powers that are going to vote. Number one, that statement is not entirely true. Just like Kenya, Eritrea has different bases, Russian base, China's base, US base, they're all there. But what is important is the general mood of African political sphere. This notion, this general feeling that we should divorce from the Western powers. We need somebody who can communicate that well. We've seen the resumes. We've seen the diplomacy that has taken place. I mean, listen, if you look at the team that Raila has, Makao Mutua, Mudavadi, and all these people who are writing his speech and riding with him everywhere to meet him in Nanagua and all these people, Raila needed us help. But the difference is the Eritrean guy, since he was trilingual or whatever, multilingual, he would travel by himself. And like I say, he had that personal touch that I think shall make the difference. Pretty Pacao says, sorry, but Raila is a big no. So to me, if I was to look at it, the Francophone nation, the Western bloc of Africa and Central, then take the Northern African countries, shall all vote for Yusuf Mohammed. Now, South and the Eastern Bloc might go to Raila Odinga. Not all of the South. Okay? So, the Eritrea guy, his challenge will be to convince the Botswanas, the Namibias, the South Africas. Okay? Because Raila probably got the Eastern Bloc locked. All right? So all in all, if I was looking at the numbers, from my opinion, I think the Djibouti guy has the lead from the get-go, off the bat. He has the lead. Now, between now and Saturday, there'll be a lot of diplomatic abracadabra. People might be, through their representatives, you never know. Some people might be bribed. I have no idea. So things can go haywire. But as of right now, I think Raila is going to lose. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, I'll keep it short. I'll leave it here. My name is Kenya Revolutionary. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys later. Peace and blessings.